Welcome everyone to episode 403 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pantellarusco. I write stuff in podcast 2, and today I have part 1 of a 2-part conversation with Melissa Mary Duncan. This was a bit of an unexpected 2-parter. It's been a long time since I've seen this episode. It's my oldest episode left in my collection, and it was my last interview from Vancouver. I think that's one of the reasons why I waited so long to air this. Also, the pandemic kind of changed everything there. Melissa just launched a store, and we talk about that store, and we talk about her art, and we talk about all kinds of other things as well. I totally enjoyed this conversation, but this is unexpectedly a 2-part conversation, so I'm here to say that this is only the beginning. This is part 1. Part 2 will be out soon. There's going to be 4 podcasts this week. So, upon that note, let's just get into our conversation, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
Okay, so hold on a second here. Alright, so I ask this question almost always when I start. If you have anything incriminating you'd like to say, make it good.
Okay. Sadly, I don't have much that goes in that regard. So
No, nothing. You're mostly innocent and good and
no. But you see what you get.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Yeah. So we are at your store today.
Yes, the Wylde Wood Collective.
So I'm surrounded by amazing art. She's actually painted quite a few of them. I actually really like the one right above you. Actually, it's really well done.
This one?
Yeah.
Green Jacket. It's based on a poem by Robert Allingham. About it goes, we folk, good folk, trooping all together. Green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. And these are traditional fairies. They're not particularly nice. And when my little girl, and that's actually her portrait as a grown woman, when my little girl was young, this poem distressed her. And we just finished reading Peter Pan. And of course, Peter Pan's all about, he wants a mother and all this. So she figured that she likened the wee folk to the Lost Boys being naughty. So she figured if they got a mother, they would smarten up. And every night we'd try and get her to go to sleep, and she'd sob buckets and want this poem. I'd tell her the poem, and she'd sob some more. It was a horrible circle of sobbing and distress. And in the end, her sister figured out what the issue was. They needed a mother terribly. She was like just turning 4. So
your daughter sounded really sweet at that age.
They were darling, and I was a single mom, and we were broke as smoke. So this reading, fairy tales, that whole magic world was very important.
Absolutely.
So when I told her I would eventually draw a mother, I do a mother for them, and then they'd be better. But it took many years until she was growing up. But as soon as she knew they were going to get a mother, it was all okay. That makes sense.
No, actually it does. Actually,
okay,
in a very because it's assurance that a problem is going to be solved. And also she trusted you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's actually a big great thing. She trusted you that you were going to pull through, and lo and behold, you did.
Yeah.
2013 from my up there, so it's cool. So I guess I'm going to go with this way then with you. So it sounds like you're very much into certain classical literature, and you love doing art. Which came first?
Which came first? Probably reading. I was a very sick child. I'm a polio survivor. I have what they call post-polio syndrome. So I have to very, very skillfully monitor my energy levels. I had to learn to walk and speak again. So drawing was not originally because of the dexterity it took. And I actually went from a lefty to a righty because I was paralyzed on the right side, and they wanted me to do as much as I possibly could to get the right side active. Sometimes if I'm very tired, I'll find I'm working at the drafting board with both hands.
Interesting.
So
also, you're tough as nails. I gotta respect you more.
Yeah, it's a little. I am tough as nails.
No, you have to be. I mean, you go through that and survive. That could change you forever. and make you strong in a way you really need to be strong. That's awesome. I mean, I'm sorry you went through it.
Well, it made me a different person than I probably would have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm kind of comfortable with me.
Well, no, absolutely. Like adversity is a very powerful thing. Adversity is actually a very, very powerful thing. It teaches you things about yourself, and it makes you find things out about yourself that you never thought was possible.
Except when it happens when you're that young, that's just life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's when you're building your character.
Yeah, well, actually, not much, but I mean, I'm sure there are days you worry, but man, not much must rattle you. Because if you've been through that, yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I'm very pragmatic, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
Which is a bit of a dichotomy to the illustrative fairy folk tale that most people think of when they think of someone who draws fairies for a living, you know.
But honestly, I'm going to say this on a personal level. I wish more writers and artists actually had that. You're a businesswoman as much as you're an artist and you're a writer or I still feel like for you, stories are still a big part of your life.
Yes,
right.
It's all about story.
It's all about story.
Yeah.
But I also feel like you have the business sense to have something like this. That pragmatism has served you well.
I didn't start this alone. I want to be.
No.
Yeah.
But that's not bad. I'm not saying.
Yeah. No, I can be quite timid. I didn't start this alone. I started it with my husband and a lady named Tracy Ernst, and we were backed up by another really talented artist named Janice Murphy.
Yeah.
And we started it. The three of us started it down at River Market in New Westminster, and. They were a great location and really great people, by the way. They were but we outgrew the space.
Yeah.
In a very swift amount of time.
That's awesome.
So, because we have the work, I don't know if I said, we have the work here of nearly 50 Canadian authors and artists who work in fantasy, and we're very tiny even here. We're a bit of a TARDIS, though, because when you start going through, we have a huge amount of wonderful, imaginative,
I'm going to definitely
original works.
I'm going to definitely do a tour of this place. This place feels like there's a lot of hidden treasures here. That's what it actually feels like here.
Yeah.
Right? And these are always kind of the coolest spots. Like, I've moved a lot as a kid. So, one of the things I've learned about actually when you really go to a place, I haven't really done this here yet because I've been I'm about to do a big transition.
Okay.
I'm quitting my day job in about a month.
Oh, congratulations, and don't be. And it's a terribly scary thing to do.
Well, yeah, no. It actually, it's weird. Like, we were talking about this off the air. I actually it was a really strange. Like, the last 2 days were like really, really, really interesting for me personally because I let go of certain emotions. And last night I had like a really, really powerful dream.
Yes, you said you had a very powerful.
Yeah,
dream.
it was about someone being demonically possessed and then exorcised. And when I looked up what that actually meant, it meant that, I was having to come to terms with certain feelings I was having. But the fact that it was also exercised means that you're going to move past whatever, like you have moved past or are moving past whatever it is you're feeling. And for me personally, I mean, my own adversity in the past, I've done something like this before and I got my ass kicked, right? So when I came out here to do this, there's always been that little bit of fear. But I realized... Hello! I realized this week when I made a conscious choice to shift the priority away from my day job and go to focusing on my passions or focusing on my passions again. I can't completely do that yet. Right? I can't completely do that yet, but for me, it was like that was a powerful like moment of, hey, boom, I'm ready to move on and go forward, and also just the way things have happened this week, it's telling me it's going to be it might be bumpy, but it's the right thing, and that's important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
and it's often people when they start a venture don't have that kind of an epiphany, and that can make so much more emotional stress with a new venture and really stand in your way.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, I would realize this a couple of years back when this podcast went on Aurora. It was the fact that one of the biggest obstacles we all have facing when we deal with our own ventures, whatever they may be, is ourselves. And we have to be very honest with what we're feeling and what we're going through. Because it's for me, coming out here was also me refocusing on the fact that the last time I did this, it did not go well. Right? And lots of other reasons.
There can be lots of mitigating factors to that. Yeah,
there was lots of different factors.
And things completely out of your control.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the same thing might happen again. But
Hold on. No, look at that. Adopt a cat. That's cute. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's great.
Okay.
These are made by a gal named Cheryl Webster,
Ah.
and she also makes. She made the circus people that you see hanging from our ceiling.
Ah, yes.
And the sort of Victorian circus doll people. And she also makes the creepy fairies. You've seen some of those through the store. Yes.
Before you picked these two up, I thought they were sewn together to make a pun of the Siamese twins.
No, actually, we just tied them together because we thought they were cuter together.
They are very cute together.
Yes, they are, darling.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, you're welcome. Come again.
I will. We both will.
And that's going to stay in the conversation. That's the cool thing about, like I said, going back, a little chaos actually adds something authentic. But like again, that personal thing of going forward and just for me, like that's been the last epiphany when I made that focus. I couldn't get interviews here when I first came out here. And the moment I made that shift, I've had a boatload.
So where did you come from?
Calgary.
Oh, deepest, darkest Calgary.
Deepest, darkest
Oh, yeah.
I did well there.
Good. Yeah, Calgary's a very artistic town.
Yes.
Yes. In many respects, it's more artistic and more open than Vancouver is.
In some respects, yes. Some respects,
no. Well, everybody's good. That pattern is going to be different in every city. But yeah.
No, some respects, yes. Some respects, no. Going back, there's what I call, like, this city is a little bit more pragmatic with its art. Is what I actually like going back to like a practice pragmatism. There is that feeling here. However, I feel like it's like from an author collective kind of thing. It doesn't work the same way at all, and I'm going to have to relearn and re-navigate that in the weeks and months to come. But in this week, like I said, the week of opening up, an opportunity to get possibly into a radio station with a show like this has come up.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
Do you know about the co-op radio station in New Westminster?
No, I don't.
It's actually very well rated.
Yeah.
Their studio is down on Columbia Street.
So you're the third thing I've heard of in the last week. That's what that's the point. Like there are openings here, and what I need to do, and this is why I'm as I keep transitioning out of what I'm doing, is finding the opportunities, plan the path I'm going to go on, figure it out, and go for it. The worst case scenario, I get another job again somewhere down the road.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and you've. There's nothing. See, I started. I'm nearly 70.
Yeah.
So I started.
You don't look it.
Oh, you're so sweet.
No, I'm serious. You look a lot younger. How old are you, good sir?
62.
Yes. You also look younger.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this was a very late life start for me. But you come to a point where and some people are lucky, they come, hi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye-bye. They come to this point earlier in life. I came to it later. You're either going to give this a kick at the can, or the can's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So we decided to give the can a kick.
Yeah.
And start it.
And and honestly, you don't regret it. No, you don't, because you find out. I mean, failure isn't scary. I mean, it seems scary, but failure actually isn't really scary. Success can be scary.
Yes,
but
terrifying.
Terrifying, right? But failure, not so much. Success can be, but not trying is scariest of all.
It's paralyzing. And for me, there's nothing worse.
Yeah. We have that in common.
Yes.
That's why I jumped all the way out here, just because it was just, I could have stayed in Calgary and been very comfortable there, but I would have stopped. Eventually, I would have stopped growing, or my growth would have been slower.
Yeah.
And I'm still a pretty crazy dude. I gotta go out there and figure things out and go for it, and because it's too short.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And and it's never too late. It's never too late.
No.
It ain't over to the fat lady sings, and it's never too late. It's never too late to start something that's talking to you and saying, "This is a dream. Look at me."
Yeah, it's true. And even sometimes when the fat lady sings, he'll give you another chance too.
That's right. Sometimes they ask you for a curtain call.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's actually, you'd be amazed.
And you get a standing ovation. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Heck, even if they throw fruit at you, that's not bad.
No, I mean, look at what was her name? The turn of the century. They made a hilarious movie out of it with Meryl Streep.
I haven't seen it.
Dreadful opera singer. You know the one I'm talking about? I spaced her name, but just it's a wonderful story about someone who actually couldn't sing at all, was dearly loved by her husband, and he supported her dream.
Yeah.
And that's just touching.
Yeah, well, again, you live once, and you have what's inside you, and that's it. And you have the opportunity to express it.
Yes.
And again, you don't walk away with any of this when it's all said and done. You don't. One day, you're going to go, and all this is left behind, and you're going to go to wherever it is that's next.
Yes,
and
the next adventure.
The next adventure.
That's
whatever,
right.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, when I think about that, I always imagine the Hobbit movie, which the best part I thought was when Bilbo is running, and he says, "I'm going," and somebody says, "Where are you going?" And he's running, and there's tall, grassy hills between him, and he's sort of running on a path that's cut between them. And he says, he's waving, and his hands are in there, and "I'm going on an adventure." We are so lucky here.
Yeah.
In North America, in our very protected we have the opportunity to make our own adventures if we just seize the opportunity.
Absolutely, and there's always opportunity.
You know,
even when it seems darkest, sometimes that's where the biggest opportunities are.
Yes, I think adversity plays a huge part in helping people discover their resources and pulling solutions that are out of the box.
Yeah. So I had this comment in the interview's airing tomorrow, actually. So entrepreneurship is the result of desperation meeting necessity.
Yes.
And actually, that's actually true. The more I think about that, the more I actually believe that is actually the way it is.
Yeah.
And going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning, that's why the pragmatism isn't always a bad thing. Because it's the understanding of what you're getting involved in and the risk, and understanding that helps you understand what you need to do.
Yes.
And I think in that sense, pragmatism is an amazing tool.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's really, hello.
How are you?
Hi, haven't seen you forever. It was so lovely to see you.
It's good to see you.
Welcome to the new location.
It is. We haven't been here.
Yes. It's so much better for us here. Yeah.
You can set your own hours.
Yes, and I can hear you speak.
Yes.
Yes.
Not loud.
The circus school brought great energy. However, it was very noisy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Well, remember, Mark, we were opposite the circus school.
Oh, really?
So they had all these. It was wonderful, and they had great creative energy, and there was a little playground in front. And of course, I love that because I love storytelling, so I frequently go and tell a sly story on the side. You know.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
know about Baba Yaga? Let me tell you.
These traumatized children watching the clowns of audio. No.
They were riveted.
Can't sleep constantly. No,
It always ends up well. But it was the tin roof made a horrific roar of sound, which made it very difficult to have a conversation about. This is a really good book. You should read this one if you're interested in ceiling tiles that talk. You should read this one. Yeah.
And all the while you're hearing like these big sounds.
Yes. And Yahoo! And there was frequently three different orchestral accompaniments to River Market. There was the music they were playing in the circus school. There was the performer downstairs, and there was the music they were piping through at the same time.
So I was living in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes.
So in Phoenix, Arizona, on the first Friday of every month is their Friday Collective. Theirs is amazing. It's not a blog. It's blocks of artists.
Oh, stars!
No, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing, and I actually said this to a lot of people. You need to go to this. So one night, this is how I learned how to actually sell, because beside me was a rock band performing in the most beautiful stained glass windows you've ever seen in your life. And I'm looking at them, I'm looking at me, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Right? They're killing it in the music.
Yeah.
And the glass, I mean, it sells itself because it's just there. But
Yes.
I'm like, okay, so what do I have going for me? They're here to see them, so I have an opportunity to talk to them. Because the one thing, and that's when I learned how to talk to people. Because it's one of those situations where, again, necessity.
Yes.
How do you stand out in a crowd when you're dealing with this? And this has served me well whenever I've done comic book conventions and other things as well, because even though that I literally have showed up bare bones and have made more money on my table than people with all the bells and whistles. I mean, sometimes I've got my ass kicked too, but it's one of those.
There's a lot to do with the charisma of a human being.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons. Actually, we had a very interesting conversation just before you came in with one of our artists who was talking about. We were talking about Fan Expo, and we were talking about the fact that it's not a place for her because she doesn't want to produce fan art. She wants to produce original art. And I talked about, well, the power, I don't produce fan art. But the power of going to some place like Fan Expo is what it, you can get those sales, but you have to be there and you have to be on and you have to
Actually,
engage.
I'll give you a good example. My buddy who's done some interior work on my novel, right? It's coming out real soon. So what he would do, because he doesn't like talking to people at the con, this is what he would do. He would paint at the con.
Yes.
He would do watercolor acrylic.
I've done that too.
Yeah. So he made. So he goes. He went to me. So what should I paint? So I went Double Dragon because we're doing these big game.
Okay.
So he does Billy and Jimmy Lee in like watercolor.
Yeah.
He sells it like immediately.
And people will come back to see what's happened with the picture now.
So to your artist friend, this is what you do. You bring your work with you and you work on it. The one advantage artists have, writers have to convince people that they're worth their time. That's actually what a writer is selling. Truthfully, it's not even really the content of the book, although you do need to know what your book's about and you should care, you should be passionate about it. The truth is, right, what the writer is actually selling is, I'm worth your time. An illustrator or an artist doesn't have to do that, because I can just look at your stuff and I know exactly what you're about, and I can appreciate it, and if it speaks to me, I'll take it with me.
What's really interesting about that is I have been working, and this is something to do with several things, and it has to do with ageism, and it has to do with the fact that people don't realize that artists are the people that live in their neighborhood and earn livings just like regular folks. Like, it's a job. Yes, you may be an artist who designs textiles. You may be an artist who designs chairs for IKEA. That's all art. Mm-hmm. That's all design skill.
Absolutely.
I was at an event. I've got the easel set up. I'm painting, and there was a couple came by, and the one of the gentlemen was very, very interested in, and he wanted to buy a piece, and his partner convinced him not to buy a piece, even though I'm there painting the piece, because this could not be made by people. It had to come out of a factory in China.
That's amazing.
The other experience I've had, which is very similar, is about creativity and society's ideas of who are creatives. Is, as I say, I'm an older lady. I'm nearly 70, and so I'm at a convention, and I'm at a convention with my younger and stunningly beautiful daughters. Okay, so they come up to me, and I got my sketchbook, and I'm doing they say, but they're degrees separated from me because of the table situation, which is never ideal, but is the way often these things are set up.
Yeah. You make do with what you have.
Yeah, you make it the best you can. So we'd like to meet the artist, and I go, Hi, I'm the artist. I'd like to meet the artist in a louder voice, as if because of the roar of the sound and because I'm older.
Yeah.
Second time, I'm the artist.
And then they had those funky shops on the
Point to my child. And the third statement this person makes is, I want to meet the artist.
Place when it first started.
Because, and this is an interesting, we have many artists here, for instance, the lady who does Nancy Green,
yeah.
has failed.
I'm not going to tell names at this moment, but several of our artists are older ladies, and it's something, not Nancy Green, but in specific, but it's something many of us have had when we work with we either work with a friend who is younger, or our daughters who are younger.
Yeah.
We can't possibly be the creatives producing this at our age.
So they got a lot of pass-through.
Which is really an interesting. So I began dressing in my history-bounding clothes, so I could at least stick out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a bit of a gimmickry, especially at conventions. You have to embrace.
Yes, very much so, because it's a very artificial setting, and you best figure out how to plug your Lego brick of you into the whole sculpture.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes what I've done is the bare bones approach. I'm just going to bring here's my stuff. I have a cloth sometimes. Here's my thing. They look at you and you look around at all these other wonderful decorations. But what I have found,
it is very much
actually, and as I get more sophisticated with this, what I actually do, I'm going to create what I call a mobile makeshift convention thing. And what it basically is I'm going to look around and see what kind of sets there are. The more elaborate the sets around me are, the simpler I become.
Well, the more it's because it's visual noise, and then people will stop at the Oasis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's right. It's what stands out. And I've learned that this is a sales thing that actually is very legitimate.
Well, I think that's a good model.
You put 100 beautiful women in the room, put one very not so attractive woman there. Everyone's going to know the not so attractive.
Well, they can certainly do that with
right. It's just nature. The things that are unique. It's the nature of intelligence itself. It discerns.
It picks out the exception.
Yeah, exactly. It always does.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is when you're doing sale, when you're on a convention floor, you got to figure out where you're separate, what you can offer that's unique, and then you plug it into whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And again, you may not make the most money there, but you will make money.
Yeah.
Right. My most successful show was Winnipeg, and I crashed it. I crashed. I accidentally. I was really worried. The con was dysfunctional.
It's
at the best.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are surprisingly dysfunctional. Yes.
Here's how dysfunctional it was.
Well, some of the larger ones are surprisingly.
This was a larger one.
Yeah.
So this is how dysfunctional it was. I was starting getting info about the show.
Well, you know, they have gamers.
I hadn't been confirmed as I was on the waiting list. So I started getting this info on the show. They didn't tell me I was on the show. So I just so am I going? So
yes. Have you accepted me? Did you?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't find it until the day before. Yes, so it was like,
oh stars.
Oh yeah, I was like, yes, you are going.
So I mean,
well,
the first thing I would have done.
I had an inkling it might happen. So I did some prep, not all of the prep, but some prep, just in case I ended up going. So I flew,
feeding them up, but they're still
brought my books, made my table by the end of the second day. It was a good show for me financially.
Yes.
But I never want to ride that elevator doing that again.
Yeah. I think there's a book to be written all about people who do shows. Because some of the stuff is I can't believe the shows continue year after year after year. Some of them I know why. I mean, there are some really well run shows. One of them is Time Traveler's Bazaar, which is a one-day show that happens in Vancouver, and that's run by Tracy Ernst. But some other shows, and they're big and they have big budgets, and they are the day before you find out you're in the show, or you show up and they discover that they booked the hall. One of my artists went to a show. I can't remember. It was in Winnipeg somewhere. So they flew from the West Coast.
The show was in Winnipeg, by the way.
Yes.
So I'm talking about my.
Okay.
So it might be the same show.
Sorry, who knows? So they flew from here to Winnipeg. They got there, and the people running the show had not actually booked the show event site.
But they're doing
Wow.
community centered.
Yes, so I think there's rich material here to interview artists and creatives who do conventions and shows. I think it'd be a cautionary tale and also hilarious.
This is the rule I learned at a show. This is the rule I've
Yeah,
learned.
basically, you
If I see the con staff running around like chickens with their heads cut off more than once,
So there's 200 people.
that tells me the show's not organized.
Yeah.
If the show is really well run, they're there, but you don't notice them. They actually are very much like the show should be their cake because everything they've done up until
Yes,
that point.
it's time for dessert and to take your ease and get your applause.
The biggest problem you should have is that my extension cord didn't work and they
Yes.
get a new extension cord. Those problems happen no matter what.
Yeah.
When they tore it down.
But
Not booking the event site is a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, it's a bit like
We can put up this
okay.
Okay. And you didn't find this out until you came to load in this morning.
It's like, how did you miss this? It's like,
How is this disconnect possible? Yes.
yeah, and then it's like, how many years? 20 years. 20. How? And then I look at the hotel guys and they're like, yeah, we make our money off this show, like,
Yeah.
because they pay us, so I mean,
So we do it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's like one of those, it's one of those really awkward things where you're just like, I don't fully understand this. But it seems to have, like, it's living proof to me that God has a sense of humor.
Yes. Yep.
God has a sense of humor.
Yep.
How did this work? In spite of itself. That's.
This animal runs anyway. I don't know how. Has no legs.
How?
Yes.
Dale does.
Then actually, sometimes I've learned as I've gotten older. I'll say wiser, just for my ego's sake here, right? Sometimes it's best not to ask those questions.
No, it's yes. You don't really want to know the answers.
No, you think you do.
No, you don't want to know the answers.
That's the caution. It's like, you think you do, and everybody has one of those.
Yeah.
Everybody has, like, why? I just need to understand this, just because this hurts my brain. And then you get the answer, and then your brain's hurt even more. It's like,
especially in
stop. Okay, I'm never asking a question like this again. I'm just gonna accept the little pain.
And go with my win.
Yeah.
has a lifespan.
We haven't even talked about it. We haven't talked much about like everything else.
Okay, well, let's start in one corner and work our way through.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is me working.
So folks, since this is an audio recording,
Yes.
So
Yeah.
why don't you describe what I'm seeing here?
Okay, why don't you describe it, because it's much easier for you're more objective than I am. This is a pencil drawing for a book that will come out later this year.
Oh yeah, the piece. Yeah, that's nice.
I'm going to say this. I'm just going to ask this on a personal question. You're a big fairy tale fan, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Traditional fairies and traditional folklore.
Yeah.
Not so much sparkly princesses.
Okay. Are you okay with unicorns up our rainbows?
Yeah, we've got tests.
Depends how they're treated.
Okay. Mine talks some wingdings, and it was a spam box.
That's okay. That can sometimes be very amusing.
It was designed for pure amusement.
Yeah.
Right.
Very amusing.
I
Yeah.
also use him oddly to explain evolution in a later book in the series.
Well, that sounds very interesting.
I'll tell you the joke. He talks in wingdings.
Yes.
His descendants talk in emojis.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, evolution.
Evolution.
So this is an amazing drawing. It looks like
Venus, as you may know, is the closest thing.
I'm not sure who that is exactly.
It's a rain spout.
A rain spout.
This is a city where if you transgress the rules and regulations, you get turned into a rain spout.
Well, the fascinating thing.
Yeah.
So
I was looking like that.
these are the rain spouts.
So that's the story behind it. Now this looks like a very haunted, like terrifying.
Yes, it's a sorcerer city.
Yeah. It's a haunting, terrifying place. And I say fairy tale because it's got that
You can get
magic.
off.
So
That's
fairy
what
tales,
happens.
like I always think like young adult and horror are actually secretly the same genre because there's a lot of overlap in terms of like I'm not talking like romantic young adult, but I'm talking like the fantasy young adult because there's a lot of overlap between the world building in both. Right?
Yes, very much how they're approached.
Yeah. It's almost like they're opposite. They're opposite keys on the same piano. One uses black keys with a little white. One uses a lot of white keys with a little black. I find young adult, it's a lot of white keys, a little black, horror is a lot of black, a little white. But they're oddly they're in similar spaces, and it's like I feel like this could be a very fun young adult / horror / maybe dark fantasy.
Well, to me, that's very fairy tale, just like Tolkien.
Yeah.
You know, just like, I mean, if you really think, recently they made a horror movie of Hansel and Gretel. It was a little too out there for me, but I've always thought that if you did the story of Hansel and Gretel, actually as a dead straight drama,
Yes, I do.
where you actually buy into the whole.
Yeah, and it's signed by the artist.
And when you look at the story in its bare bones, and you look at Grimm, and when they were collecting German folktales, and when they were also inventing them, it was a very difficult time. They had just, they dealt with Napoleon tromping through Europe. There was great swaths of starvation. I mean, this is what I've found interesting is how we juvenilized fairy tales as we've moved forward in time. And I think to a degree that has made them somewhat powerless and weaker than the true kernels of what the stories actually evoke: hunger, starvation, how to cope, how to think outside the box, how to have hope in hopeless situations, all of those things that we need actually to live rich lives.
When this is over, I'll throw a little challenge your way, because I actually had there's a flip side to that, and I think all in all I do agree with you, but there's a tiny caveat. And something because that's something I've realized with my life and with the nature of rebellion itself. Mm-hmm. True rebellion, and again, I think juvenile. I think where I will agree with you, I think it is too juvenile, but I actually don't mind that it's a little juvenile. And I think the reason.
Well, I think there's a place for that.
Well, yeah, but I think, okay, especially talking about the subject matter there, especially with like Hansel and Gretel, I learned something a long time ago, like. When we rebel against a situation, the easy thing, and the first step is always to be angry at the situation we're in. And that's a perfectly natural reaction. A natural reaction. Totally natural. However, there's a very serious danger. I've learned this as I've gotten older. Anger by itself is useless. It's good for waking you up to the situation around you, give you a proper appraisal, possibly, of your current scenario. However, once you have that, you have to leave the anger. You keep a little anger to keep you awake. But beyond that, you let most of the rest of it go.
Otherwise, it's a great roadblock.
It's a huge roadblock. So the flip side is joy. Joy is the true path of rebellion. The reason being is if you can look at a situation and you can find something to laugh at or find something to lessen the blow each and every time. And I find like joy is the best tool for this. Then the problem no longer owns you. You own the problem.
Yes.
Right. So I think this is how I kind of see it. The fact that they've juveniled it a little bit, you can actually add a more rebellious quality.
I think when I look at the oldest versions of folk and fairy tale, they do have that quality of joy.
Yeah.
They do have that quality of humor. Many of them. They are not without it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I do agree. Like I say, but I think, like I said, I don't completely disagree with you. I think it's too. I wouldn't even say juvenile. It's too homogenized.
Yeah.
It's too homogenized. I think the juvenile part is actually irrelevant. I think the problem is it's okay to I think Dr. Seuss. I've had this conversation.
Seuss is great.
Seuss is great. Seuss does not shy from dark things.
No.
At all. And I think the one.
No, and actually some of his writing is quite dark.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? It's supposed to be. And the thing is, the thing about Seuss is because of the way he tells the story. Right.
You do such nice work.
Oh, thank you.
She really does. She really does.
Thank you.
Right.
Probably not as a gift to keep in.
I think by the fact that we don't.
No. Oh, you got some of Tony's.
That's for my brother-in-law.
Oh, how nice.
I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
I think you'll
Oh,
like
good.
it. So.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in today.
Hey, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
I like the new place.
Yeah, I do too.
It's slightly bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
but not enormous.
Not enormous, and quieter.
Yes, it's very nice to actually hear voices.
For sure.
Yeah.
With my hearing problem, I can't hear in loud rooms. You may as well be using sign language.
Yeah.
And of course, I refuse to wear my glasses, so I can't read anything either. So you can't even write me notes.
Oh
I
dear.
just stand in the corner.
Yes. Well, how do you fight with the sword without?
He always has. He's always done it by feel.
It's just what you're used to.
Yeah, I didn't know I had a
He's a great
vision
Western
problem.
martial artist, by the way.
I didn't know I had a vision problem until I was until I was 20. That's when I found out. I just thought I sucked at tennis.
No, you did too.
Well, I did too, but I thought because the instructor would say keep your eye on the ball, and I'm like, what ball?
You still weaving?
Yes, I am weaving, making hats now.
Making
Yeah,
hats? Oh,
yeah.
I have to
Took a
see some
hat
of
making
those.
course.
Yeah, I've been taking
my gateway
for Edie.
accessory drug of choice hats.
The woman who used to own the hat shop down at Granville Island, Edie.
Yeah, I know, she's lovely.
She just teaches at my bought all her hat blocks and all that.
Oh,
and I've been collecting hat blocks for years. So
we can use hats here.
okay,
And now we can do so much more here because we don't have any restrictions.
fair enough.
Making me a
Peaky Blinders hat right now.
Oh, Peaky Blinders cap! Oh, how lovely! Yeah, you look very dashing in that.
We got that in.
She's a amazing
we got this-
textile artist.
We got this at the V&A in London.
Oh well,
I love this.
I did. Yes.
It was our
Yeah, we spent a
25th
month in London
anniversary.
last year.
So
Oh,
well, a month in
nice.
England.
A month in Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was our 25th anniversary.
How
so.
nice. Yeah.
We have a lot of family, so it's cheaper for us to go and spend a month in Scotland than it is to go spend a week in Toronto.
Yeah.
We have
And
somewhere
the
to
airplane fares about the same,
It
depending
is.
on when you book it. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And why would you want to spend a week in Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto's a great place to come from.
Yes, yes, I did. Yes,
It
as
has
a
its
child.
moments.
Yes.
Anyway, well, nice seeing you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Okay, and happy birthday.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Take care, guys.
Yep.
You too. Bye now.
And like I said, little chaos adds to the conversation.
Yes.
Yes, it does. But I like your Alice. Or I don't know if that's your Alice.
That's
but
not my Alice. That's Tony Rodriguez.
That's really good.
Tony Rodriguez is doing a free class tomorrow up in the gallery in the next block on layout and design. And he is marvelous, very enthusiastic booster. And he's also an incredible instructor. Very, very energetic and very... it's a great class if you're a beginner and if you're more advanced. And he works primarily in the gaming industry, but he got in long enough ago, so he still is allowed to produce a personal work, because some of the new contracts are quite.
I've heard some terrifying rumors.
There are
about
there are some contracts out there which I think are just. Let's not get me started on.
No. I've heard stories from several people in Vancouver about the gaming industry here, and while some of it is still great, there is they who shall not be named that apparently, unfortunately, and this is what we're going. Chaos and opportunity and light and dark. Speaking of, right. We were talking about earlier about how Suits doesn't shine, how we don't, as storytellers back in the day, they weren't afraid to show the negative consequences and that bad things can happen. And I think.
Well, they also didn't have this concept of children and adults, so stories are made for people.
Yeah, exactly. And actually,
really, childhood comes out of the Victorian culture.
Yeah, but also, when you get right down to it, it's probably the way it should be, because the truth of the matter is, kids see things, in some ways they understand things better than we do.
Yes.
They have a lot less of a bullshit filter than we do.
Yes. And I think we do them a great disservice. I love children's books and I love children's literature. And I think we do children a great disservice when we dumb it down for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think they need stories that have meat in them, and adventure and hope and joy and humor, but are not just the equivalent of fart jokes.
Well, like I said earlier,
yes, I'm opinionated.
There's nothing wrong with having it. You should be. You're 70 years old, and you should be far less crap than I do.
You're back.
No, that's my problem. My back's quite a bit hairier.
Oh, alrighty. I don't want to know. Stores.
Going far with our keys.
Nope.
Let's just leave them here and right back.
Your car's nice.
We'll deal with it.
No, our car's old.
It goes.
We're buying a new one next year. So
We can still get a good pay.
We can get some money for it. We're Canadian artists here.
There's a profit margin I like.
Yeah, exactly. Don't have to work quite so hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, you should. Being 7 years old, you should give far less of a fuck than I do. Right? So.
Well, actually, it's very freeing.
Yeah.
It is very freeing.
Yeah.
And I think age is another adventure, and I think we have taught ourselves. I mean, especially when nowadays we don't. Okay, we have such longevity.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have such good health.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency. We're Western society is very youth oriented, and I think that's tragic because I think it artificially ends your belief in your own potential way before your time is done.
But Western culture has become that way by design.
Yes, it has.
By design.
It's very much by design. It's by. I remember taking advertising in Emily Carr, and I didn't go into graphic design, which is and I always wanted to do children's books, but I didn't go into graphic design at Emily Carr. I ended up in the print department in fine arts, because when I was going through, and this was the beginning of the 90s, so even though I'm 70, it wasn't that long ago. It was decades. But anyway, it was all. He says it's all about every time we did an assignment, anybody who did it with any thought was told it's about sex. I mean, one girl showed up and she hadn't done the assignment, but she came in and she was like 22 and she was buff and she was hot, and she muddled through a bit of a talk. And at the end of the class, he gave her the highest mark, and then he explained to us why she got the highest mark, because she was a buff young woman, and that's going to appeal to all the advertising guys. And that was still happening in the beginning of the 90s.
Oh yeah.
So I do think we're taught to think our lives are over way before they are.
Well, I just look at it like everything's an adventure. I'm turning 40. I
wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, I'm turning 40.
That would have pegged you about 32.
38 years old right now.
Yeah.
Again, I'm older than I look.
Yeah.
So I'm actually terrified because I hit where my dad hit at a much younger age, and I give far less of a crap than I used to, and I've become my own. I had this talk like, you have to learn how to somewhat become a monster in the world, a little bit of a monster. You have to find the monster that works for you, and that's the monster you project to the world. And he looked at me, he's like, wow, you're way more calculated than I was when I was. But he goes, I approve because it's the nature. It's the nature of the world, right? You have to have a certain degree of ruthlessness to survive, but also just the fact that I'm willing to change, adapt, grow. Even now, the fact that I'm even like.
You say ruthlessness. I believe in ethical ruthlessness.
Yeah,
ethical ruthlessness.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like the Trump model.
No. Trump's not ruthless. He's a moron.
He's also ruthless.
No.
And he's not. I think if you say he's a moron, I don't think the man's gifted. But I do think if you say he's a moron, he becomes less of a danger.
Well, no. Let me paraphrase why I don't. I do.
Mm-hmm.
He's not ruthless. He's petty.
Yes.
There's a difference.
Very
ruthless.
petty. Oh,
ruthless.
yes.
There's right. He's petty.
You betcha.
Right now, he does have one gift, and people always underestimate this gift. And this is the thing. This is why I don't retweet, respond, or do anything. And the fact is, there's a lot of suckers on Facebook. I don't think people understand it. He's trying to gouge a reaction. He's a magician. That's what he is. He's a magician. The magician, his trick is, he will say the most outrageous, do the most outrageous, be who he is. Number one.
See the shiny object.
Yeah, exactly. See the shiny object. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. He is incredibly skilled as a performer. That's his talent. That is his real talent. That is why he won the first election. Because now most people don't realize this, he's run for president prior to this election.
Yes.
And he got his ass handed to him.
On a platter.
Many, many times.
Yes.
When in so doing. Mitt Romney did it. John McCain did it. I don't remember who ran before McCain, but he did it too. Like, they smashed him. What happened this time, or last time, and what's happening this time is, the person that can beat him has to be able to perform like him. Doesn't necessarily have to be as petty as he is, but has to understand the nature of what they're performing in front of. The fact of the matter is, he gets Twitter, he gets Facebook, he gets television, he gets all these people advertising for him. This is why I say everybody here are suckers. The way you beat the troll is you don't feed it, right?
Well, I agree with you. But at the same time, I believe in what I call ethical ruthlessness. In other words, and you said he's petty. I think that's the difference. I also think he's unethical.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I think that he has huge charisma, as you said, performer.
Yeah.
And he's quite dangerous. I think when if we dumb down fairy tales, we have a tendency to raise children or stories to children. We have it so they cannot see the magician's trick, and they need to learn the magician's trick to survive. But we also need to be able to treat each other ethically in order to survive in harmony.
No, the second part, I'm going to agree with it. I'm going to completely. The first part, let me elaborate on it.
Okay, great.
We don't teach our children how to identify the monsters for who they are.
Yeah.
That's the trick. See, here's the thing. If I understand the monster, I know how to deal with it. For example, the way to deal with Trump is actually to ignore him. Don't worry about what he's saying. Don't worry about what he's doing. Worry about what he's doing. Not necessarily what he's advertising he's doing.
But what he's actually doing.
Yeah. Absolutely worry about that. See that for your own eyes. Judge accordingly. And use the powers you have to oppose it. Never mind.
Yes, plug yourself in to fix the solution or radically disarm him.
Or if you can't control any of that, do your thing. Do not worry, because at that point it's beyond your control, and you can't. And I always believe in controlling your controllables. That's mine. That's how I've learned to evolve over time. It's just like I can't change you. You can change you. Now, me and you have a disagreement over something. I can give you advice on how to do it, but once that's done, and you say I don't want to do it, there's nothing I can do.
No,
right.
You're blocked.
I'm blocked.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. So I don't worry about it anymore because I've done. This took a long time for me to get that wisdom.
It does with everybody.
Yeah.
And some people never get it, which is hopelessly sad.
Understandable, though.
Yeah,
the hearts
very.
Hearts in
and
the right place.
That's why treating each other with ethics is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and again, the second part of what you say, I completely agree with. But I think people don't understand the monster of the United States is it listens to Grandpa. Because it doesn't matter if it's Trump, it doesn't matter if it's Bernie Sanders, it doesn't matter who it is. They're all Grandpa. And the thing is, Grandpa's a little. Grandpa's a little bit.
This is the funny Grandpa, yeah.
This isn't funny Grandpa. This is Grandpa with a little bit of dementia.
Yeah, the funny Grandpa in the corner, the one everybody, yeah. That Grandpa, that funny Grandpa.
Yeah. So that Grandpa is who everybody listens to. And the thing is, the person that pointed this out to me is Hayden Trenholm out of Ottawa, and he's actually very right. You have Grandpa. What's needed sorely in the United States, and this will not happen in their politics. Politics will be the last place that happens in. It has to be everywhere else first, is different voices than what is already in power. The fact of the matter is, this is what a lot of people have to look at. The issues of power and control, or the levers, the traditional levers, that war is settled, and they're not going to give those up.
No.
Ever. That's never going to change. So what you got to look at going forward. See, the way you truly fight these monsters is with your pocketbook. That's the bottom line. And if they're taking your money away traditionally, you have to find new ways of finding business out. And the thing is, and for everything that's cut, you keep looking for alternatives. Because the truth of the matter is, there's a zillion of them out there. But that's what goes back to something we talked about at the beginning, the adversity and finding the resourcefulness in ourselves. That, more than anything, is what everybody needs. And those stories we should be telling our children now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's it. Everything else, this is why I don't talk about politics on my Facebook page.
I know.
Because I don't see the point. Because I look at it and I see it, and people will talk about their parties and this and that. But the truth of the matter is, the game's been played out. The reality is, the game has been played. All we're seeing at this point is certain moves on the chessboard. It's the illusion. It's the illusion of participation. The real participation is the actions we take with each other, and the real participation we take, right, is where we put our money and understanding where it's actually going.
And also, I think our energies can really influence. And I think just recognizing the issue, whether you have the tools to deal with it or not, is the first step for survival.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is Kathleen with BookBrush, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about BookBrush.com. Our team developed BookBrush for authors like you after having hundreds of conversations with authors that were struggling with creating images or simply paying too much per image to have a graphic designer do the job. So we created, for authors specifically, the easiest way to create professional ads and social media images for your books. We'd love to have you join us at bookbrush.com.
And that's a good spot, I think, to wrap it up. Controlling your controllables is very apt in this point in time, and I think that's a good way to wrap up part 1. Part 2 will go up literally tomorrow. We're going to be starting, we're going to have a weekend filled with stuff. Katie Solitis is my reading guest on the weekend, and we're going to continue down that road. But this was a great way to start this up. And I'm going to be talking about the Burkburst Conference on tomorrow's episode after the interview concludes. So, upon that note, I'm just going to wrap this up. Thank you for listening to this episode of Just Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. You can subscribe to the podcast. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, a bunch of other places. You can buy my books. Alice Zero is available for pre-order now. You can go check out the link if you want. It officially goes up literally in 2 days. So that's where we're at, and that's where we're going with that. The Cloud Diver is still available to be purchased now. Go ahead, take a look, check it out. My merchandise is at jpenteloresco.redbubble.com. My newsletter, if you want to subscribe to it, you can do so. There is actually going to be a new entry probably tonight or tomorrow. Outside of that, my Twitter and Instagram is jpenteloresco. My Facebook page is Josh Penteloresco, author podcaster. Stay inspired, keep doing your thing, and I'll talk to you guys real soon. All right? Take care.
Josh.